السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا بكم في البث الثاني، حيث نلخص الكتاب الذي يشرح كتاب ثياتيتوس لأفلاطون. وقفنا عند قوله at 152a. Socrates says that KP, meaning that knowledge is perception, that definition says the same thing as Protagoras, though he put the same point in a different way. That a man is the measure of all things, of those that they are, and of those that are not, that they are not. Or as Socrates rephrases this, everything is for me the way it appears to me, and is for you the way it appears to you. Okay. Socrates explains what this means by introducing the problem of conflicting appearances. The same wind may appear cold to you, but not to me. What should we infer? One answer is that the wind is in or by itself cold or not cold, where these are exclusive options. And so one of us is just wrong about the wind. Protagoras favors a different answer, that the wind is cold to the one to whom it appears cold, but not to the one to whom it doesn't so appear, or to whom it appears not cold. But what does that mean? Different answers have been suggested. On one of them, P, or Protagoras, the thesis of Protagoras expresses relativism. P, i.e. a proposition is true for A if and only it appears to A that P i.e. if and only if A believes that P, where that implies that there is no such thing as being flat out true, there are only people's beliefs. But doesn't P or Protagorean relativism then say no more than that as I believe things are, so I believe they are? And isn't that a tautology? Yes, but the point is that that's all there is. We can't go on to ask, and are things as you believe they are? And that is not a tautology. Okay. On an alternative that I favor, P expresses not relativism but infallibilism. P is true if and only if someone believes that it is. Whereas PR denies that any beliefs are flat out true, PI says that all beliefs are flat out true. For a defense of PR, see Berniat, 1976. There are also other accounts of Protagoras' alleged relativism. I'll discuss Berniat and defend PI in Fine, 1998. See also my Fine, 1996. These three papers are reprinted in my Fine 2003. Okay. For suppose we assume P and take perception to be being appeared to. Plato explicitly rejects this account of perception in sophistry, and as we shall see, it is implicitly rejected in 184-6. He tries it out here as part of his dialectical effort to see what can be said on behalf of KP. For me to perceive the wind as cold is for the wind to appear cold to me. Then, since given P, all appearances are true to those who have believed, to those who have them, things are to me however I perceive them to be. In that case, perception is of what is and is free from falsehood, satisfies two marks of knowledge. It is not entirely clear how to interpret the two marks. IS can be used for inter alia, truth, existence, reality, and predication. These different uses yield different interpretations of the first mark. As for the second mark, there are two ways of being free from falsehood: being true, truth entailing, being neither true nor false. Even if perception satisfies both marks, one might object that doing so isn't sufficient for being knowledge. For example, true belief is truth entailing, but it isn't sufficient for knowledge, at least apparently. Here, we should note that P is initially stated in general terms. Everything is for one as it appears to one. Socrates says that appearing I think we should focus on reading and forget about summarizing for now. Everything is for one as it appears to one. Socrates says that appearing or being appeared to and perceiving are the same in the case of what's hot and everything of that sort. This gives us broad Protagoreanism and narrow Protagoreanism. According to BP, all appearances, i.e. beliefs, are true to those who have them. According to NP, all perceptual appearances, i.e. beliefs, are true to those who have them. It is NP that's used to support KP. I don't see the difference between NP and BP. Explain. All appearances, including beliefs, opinions, and judgments, are true for one who holds them. That is broad Protagoreanism. NP, only perceptual appearances, what you sense, hot, cold, are true for the one who has them. Why do we need two virgins? Because Protagoras' original statement is very general. Everything is as it appears, but Socrates makes a clarification. This means when we talk about sense perception, okay, got it to an extent. If, as Socrates says, perception is free from falsehood, it's incorrigible. If being free from falsehood is being true, perception is also infallible. That removes a threat to perception's claim to be knowledge. One might argue that it cannot be knowledge because we can misperceive, but knowledge is always true. Socrates blocks this myth by interpreting perception in Pythagorean terms so as to yield the conclusion that all perceptions, including those we have when dreaming, ill or insane, are true. For the objection that we misperceive when we dream or are ill or mad, see so and so. Ancient skeptics, as well as Descartes, appeal to dreams and disease to induce a certain level of skepticism. Since appearances are or seem to be equally balanced, we should or do suspend judgment either way. Plato, on Protagoras' behalf, suggests instead that since we can't tell whether we're awake or asleep, or ill or well, or mad or sane, we should accept all our appearances as true. If all perceptual beliefs, appearances, are true, and if there are conflicting perceptual beliefs or appearances, P seems to violate P and C. What is P and C? We did not come across P and C so far. What the heck is PNC? What? Seriously, what is PNC? Strange. Principle of non-contradiction. Okay. But whether it does so depends on what the world is like. For T1, I believe the wind is cold and you believe it's not. Our beliefs are about the same part of the same wind. And both beliefs are true, then given P1, Pi, not P1, which is infallibilism. The wind is simultaneously cold and not cold in a way that violates principle of non-contradiction. If, however, we perceive either the same wind at different times or different winds, or different parts of the same wind, there is no contradiction. In the first case, we can say that the wind changed in the interval In the second case, we are talking about the same thing. This is when H comes in. Socrates describes a Heraclitean theory of perception, according to which, for a stone to be white, for example, is for it to come into contact with an eye. This gives birth to a token occasion of seeing, a whiteness token. What's a token? Each of which exists only for the duration of the particular perceptual encounter, and each of which exists only in relation to the other. Heraclitus enters the shadow. Socrates now proposes a Heraclitean theory of perception, according to which objects are not stable things with fixed properties. Properties like whiteness, sweetness, heat exist only in the act of perception. The object does not have whiteness in itself. Instead, whiteness occurs only in the interaction between the object and the perceiver. Just an example. For a stone to be white is for it to come into contact with an eye. This means the stone is not white on its own. The eye does not see whiteness on its own. Whiteness is born in the moment of interaction. When the eye and stone meet, a whiteness token comes into existence. A seeing token comes into existence. A token is a singular instance. So each act of perception creates one unique whiteness for this perceiver now, and one unique seeing, the act of seeing now. And these exist only during the interaction. Okay, let's go back. This gives birth to a token occasion of seeing, and the whiteness token, each of which exists only for the duration of that particular perceptual encounter, and each of which exists only in relation to the other. As the theory is developed, it becomes clear that no two perceivers can ever perceive the same thing, nor can the same perceiver perceive the same thing twice. Eventually, perceivers and objects are collapsed into collections of perception tokens and quality tokens. Hence, neither perceivers nor objects persist over time. Once the details are fully spelled out, we are left with extreme Heracliteanism. E.H. Every object at every moment changes in every respect. Since the same thing can't be perceived twice or by more than one person, perception is incorrigible. And what is incorrigible? It's the second time we come across it, and I can't ignore it anymore. Is incorrigibility the same as infallibility? Why is it taking so long? Okay, never mind. And since for an object to be e.g. white, for example, white, I think, is just for it to be perceived to be so, perception is also infallible, and it is so without violating P and C. This supports Pi. H, more precisely EH, explains how all perceptual beliefs can be flat out true without violating P and C. By contrast, it's not clear what H's role is if PR is in play. What was PR again? What was PR? Pythagorean relativism. For according to PR, there is no way the world is. You and I don't contradict one another when you say the wind is cold and I say it isn't, because neither claim is flat out true. Relativism doesn't need, and indeed cannot allow, an ontology. An ontology specifies how the world is. A further problem for PR and a further count in favor of PI is that the qualifier to 1 is often omitted. Socrates often speaks of some things being F, rather than saying it is F to someone. This is legitimate on PI but not on PR. However, it might seem to be a problem for PI that the qualifier is sometimes included, but that can be explained in terms of privacy. When the P is called to me, it is called but since only I can perceive just that coldness token, it's called just to me in the sense that no one else has access to it. By 160e, by 160e, Socrates has completed his defense of KP. He then turns to the offensive, refuting P, H, and KP in turn. The objection to P that has attracted the most attention is the so-called self-refutation argument, which is actually a series of 3 connected arguments. One of them goes as follows. Suppose P is true, but someone believes it is false. In that case, it is false, for P says that all beliefs are true. Hence, the belief that P is false is true. So P coupled with the premise that someone believes that P is false implies that P is false. It is sometimes thought that the argument aims to refute PR, but fails to do so, since it omits the crucial qualifier to 1. Once it is included, as it must be to avoid begging the question, we can see that the argument shows not that PR is false, period, but just that it's false to someone, i.e. that someone doesn't believe it, which doesn't refute PR. At least 3 replies are possible. A. Though the argument aims to refute PR, but fails to do so, it succeeds in raising difficulties for it that fall short of strict refutation. The argument aims to refute PR and succeeds in doing so. C. It aims to refute PI and succeeds in doing so. PR isn't at issue here or elsewhere in discussing P. The self-refutation argument challenges BP, which is broad Protagoreanism. They claim that all beliefs or appearances are true. At 171e, Socrates says that NP, narrow Protagoreanism, has not yet been refuted, adding that many would accept P in the case of what's just or unjust and in religious matters. But he claims many would reject P in the case of questions about who's healthy or unhealthy, and in the case of what's beneficial or advantageous, here people rely on experts. If, for example, at T1 the doctor and I disagree about whether I'll be well at T2, it's not that I'll be both well and ill at T2. Rather, at T2 one of us will be shown to have had false belief at T1 about how I'll be at T2. Though the self-refutation argument has gotten more attention, Theodorus places more weight on the argument from expertise, though he thinks the self-refutation argument is also effective. Plato next turns to EH. How many sections are there? 11, 12. I think I'll stop here. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.